Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cow Corner Cricket Cast. I'm your host today, Pratham, and today I'm going to be discussing the match between Netherlands and Scotland, the second ODI in this two-part series that was held in Rotterdam. So the stakes going into this particular match were quite interesting, right? Because it's a two-match ODI series. Netherlands won the first, so then the second ODI becomes really a decider, right? And it was imperative for Scotland to make sure that they, won this particular match to square the series. And more importantly, it was very important for the Netherlands to win this particular match, because if they won this particular match and the series, they would go up to number 10 in the ODI rankings in the world. And if they didn't, they would move down straight to, they had a potential of moving down straight to number 15. So there's a lot of stakes for both of these sides to play. Accordingly, they made some changes. We saw some debutants in this match as well. In particular, struggle with these names for the record. So any of our Dutch viewers, I would love you to help me correct these pronunciations. But Philippe Bosseveen came into the side, a very young upstart. And then also, Ari ended up playing his second match. He played his first in the previous innings. And so, Netherlands had some changes. And Scotland, they too had some changes that they had in Adrian Neil, who's a pretty good fast bowler, all things considered. For them, came back into this particular match as well. And Sharif sat out. Which I think was the right decision. Sharif is more suited to pitches where that are relatively dry than this one, or flatter than this one, because he can get some reverse at the tail end of both spells with the new balls, in the two new balls that are often used in one-dayers. And this pitch didn't seem to really suit him. He bowled all over the shop in the first ODI as well, so I thought it was a good decision. But yeah, going into this match, a lot to look forward for both of these teams. Coming onward to the match itself, I thought it was a great performance from Scotland to square the series. They won with about 7 odd overs to spare, which is fairly comfortable, all things considered. And I think integral to that performance, turning out so well, was the start that they got, right? Excellent bowling up front from Evans, Alistair Evans. He took a 5-foot today and really got that new ball in the right, bowled some really quality corridor bowling. He's another one of these bowlers from both of these sides who has a high arm action that allows him to extract extra bounce. He utilized it well. He pitched the ball up, got the ball to seam a little bit. There was some loose batting, admittedly, from the likes of Dowd and Cooper. Cooper with that hat-trick delivery as well, or that lead up to the hat-trick delivery, bit of a problem, but he was giving them some problems. And then you had that partnership that was stitched between Myburgh and Seelaar, right? Now, the problem with that partnership, and it's really what doomed Netherlands today, I would argue, is that they tried to stitch a recovery, a slow partnership, which in itself is not necessarily the worst ideal, especially if you're down early with a couple of wickets and you have 50 overs to go. Consolidate, bat long, and get there, right? But neither of the batsmen really kicked on. They looked pretty much uncomfortable throughout the entire stay in the crease. Seelaar got hit by a Evans delivery. I think actually Myburgh got hit by an Evans delivery that sort of unsettled him on his thigh. And even though he, soldiered on, he really didn't. He struggled to find gaps. He was not very comfortable, rotating the strike. And the same can go to Pieter Seelaar. Now, I really like Pieter Seelaar. I think he's a fantastic captain, actually. And I think he's a pretty decent spinner, too. I mean, people might not remember, but in the 2007 World Cup, he dismissed Kevin Pietersen and Sachin Tendulkar with some really good deliveries. So you've got to be a good bowler to do that. But he's not a number 4 batsman, man. And I know he's trying to take responsibility as a captain. He's worked on his batting. He got an FC 100 as well. But when a guy averages 10 in ODIs and you're asking him to bat at number 4, and you as a captain decide that, that's not going to cut it. And you could tell he struggled. He really struggled here. A strike rate of under 40, hit only one boundary. It just looked completely out of sorts and looked unsettled, right, by the Pacers especially, right? So I think that partnership really doomed them, because once Myberg got out for like 69 for 3, he didn't kick on to get a 50 or 100 or convert it and make it meaningful in the context of the match. And then really quickly after that, I think within 6 or 7 runs after that, Seelaar got out. And so really the innings sort of petered after that. Scott Edwards did come in. He rallied around, played really well. I think the slider is quite talented. His shots off a square of the wicket are quite good in particular. But he was really fighting a lone hand. Then Logan Van Beek, who had accelerated so brilliantly in the first ODI, couldn't really do it this time. And really the innings really petered out after that. Good bowling though from Evans. He was penetrative with his, when he came back and cleaned up things. I honestly thought another really good bowling performance was given by Gavin Main again. Gavin Main is we mentioned it earlier, he has an action very similar to Morne Morkel and is incredibly quick and incredibly incredibly able to get the ball to rear up from just short of a length and get the ball, to about stump height from just a full of a length delivery, right? He just is able to rear up the ball from a length, and he bowled really well. I was actually kind of disappointed that they didn't give him more overs to finish out his quota. I understand that Evans was bowling really well, and Neil also bowled pretty well, but I think he did deserve some more overs as well. But yeah, the final total for the Netherlands at 171, it wasn't never going to be enough on this pitch. I know this pitch has been not easy to bat on, and the wear that this pitch had from the last ODI match, where the ball was bouncing and off a fuller length and spiteful, did allow spinners to come into play, and the sort of more sluggish two-toned nature, pace of the track made it difficult for stroke play of any kind. But that being said, there was still some stuff in it for the fast bowlers, as Evans demonstrated, and honestly, as the Netherlands innings, bowlers demonstrated when Scotland's turn to bat, because they got Coetzer out and Cross and Callum McLeod, who are the top 3 of Scotland. I've mentioned this before on the prior podcast, but these 3 are widely considered to be easily far and shoulders above all the other batsmen in the Scottish lineup, and Scotland historically in ODIs has been very dependent on their top 3 to fire to stand a chance of winning series, but they all fell pretty cheaply, and again it was that man Kingma with that lovely outswinger that he has, again being able to hit a good to slightly fullish length and extracting that sort of zip off the surface to dismiss them, in particular Cross and McLeod. But I think where Netherlands really lost the pot, and where a lot of credit has to be given to Scotland, was unlike the Netherlands batsmen, who, if we're being honest, put in a pretty subpar batting performance, the pressure that partnership between Myberg and Seelaar in particular, right, that had caused them to sort of, accelerate for really no apparent reason, play some really loose, rash strokes, aerial shots in particular that weren't necessary, that caused the low order to sort of collapse. That could have happened to Scotland too. I mean, we saw it in the previous match, but it was really sensible batting from Barrington and Munsey, who stitched together first a really good partnership to just solidify things. Barrington did struggle a little bit, but was able to, be uncharacteristically dogged, I felt, for the 28 balls that he faced, right? And I think that was key in, making sure that the approach was calibrated for Dylan Barge to come in. And then, to be honest, Munsey played sensibly. He is a relatively limited player compared to some of the top order in his lineup. He has had struggles with deliveries wide outside the off stump. He's also had some struggles with the short ball, but he played sensibly, right? Kept the ball on the ground, stitched together a partnership, rotated the strike, from time to time got those boundaries that he needed to, hit a massive six to finish off the game. And he was aided by Dylan Badge, who played pretty well, actually. I mean, it was surprising because he was struggling a lot in the previous match, right? He got out for 4 off 18, really looked perturbed by the fast bowlers in particular from the Netherlands lineup. But I think where the Netherlands lost the plot in today's match was their spinner. I know he's making his debut, Philip Boissavin, but he really bowled too slow, a little bit too not enough of a loop and bite off the surface that he wasn't able to get much purchase off the surface, right? And even though he was tall, and even though he has something, I mean, he bowled a really good wrong-un that almost got him a wicket in this particular match. He really looks like he's not yet up to international standards, right? He just bowls too slow and is not accurate enough. Bowls a little too short from time to time as well. Matthew Dowd actually bowled better than him, which I would say is a reflection of that. Matthew Dowd himself, a opening batsman for Netherlands, but also a decent leg spinner, quite frankly, a part-time leg spinner. His action skitty, it reminds me of Rashid Khan in some ways. But no, I thought they really lost the plot where Seelaar, like the previous match, decided to bring on the fast bowlers, right? Kingma in particular, earlier on, around the 25th or 30th over, I think. They were looking between those overs. They were trying to look for another wicket, and Kingma had bowled about 6 or 7 on the trot initially. So they brought him back. And him and really Van Beek really kind of gave things away because they bowled too short. They kept on trying to bounce out Munsey, and yes, Munsey has a problem against the short ball, but on this pitch, where the ball isn't really carrying from that length, I mean, there were several the keeper was on several occasions taking it around, just sort of above waist height bounces that were aimed by these two really tall bowlers, which should give you an indication of how sluggish the pitch was on that particular length in particular, right? They really lost the plot. And I think they allowed, with some wayward bowling, Budge to settle as well, who was able to smash some boundaries earlier off. And that probably made sure they didn't struggle as much. But yeah, I think that's where they lost the match, to be honest. Because they still had a chance, especially with Barrington getting out around that 4 for 100-ish mark. They still had a chance to apply pressure and take some early quick wickets and get to a result, even though they had a total that was honestly 30 or 50 runs subpar on this pitch. But yeah, I just think that they didn't the fast bowlers didn't do their job, and the main spinner that they selected this match didn't really pan out. So yeah, all things considered, I would like to say that congrats once again to Scotland. You managed to square the series. It's drawn at 1-1, and in terms of Netherlands, I think there's also some positives to take home even after losing in this particular match. Especially, I think what was impressive was their wicketkeeper's performance behind the gloves as well. I thought that Edwards kept really well. And I thought his batting was a bright light. And then for Scotland, what's going to be reassuring for them is even if their top 3 are failing, guys like Munsey, who've been in the squad and in the team for a while and haven't really performed, are starting to put in those runs. Barrington as well. Yeah, I know he didn't turn up as much in this match, but showed the sort of disciplined temperament that you need. And Budge as well coming in. So I think that there's some positives for both teams going forward. The pace attacks have been solid as well. Overall, I'd say really compelling series to watch. In my opinion, this series like these, where there's interesting cricket being played by teams that aren't necessarily full member status, is a huge reason why the ICC should be investing and caring about non-full member cricket nations and teams, because they actually play and have genuinely compelling cricket to offer to the entire sporting community. And so on that note, I'll sign off. Stay tuned. We will be doing a preview of the England versus New Zealand series that's coming up. And see you guys later.